Hey Elemental, Alex here with another addition for our at-home or bodyweight strength exercises to be doing while you may not be coming into the gym, you're social distancing from people, or you're just taking some personal time. So strength set number 2, again with just like the first one that we were talking about, this can serve as your warm-up before the bulk of your session, or it can serve as a strength set in and of itself. And so we just want to make sure, depending on what we're doing, warm-up or pure strength set, to progress or regress these exercises to make the intensities match their purpose, right? And so for this one, let's just start with 3 rounds of this. If we need to, we can progress in the future, maybe like second session of the week, but starting at 3 rounds is perfect. And so we're gonna go through a set of 10 air squats, frog stretch, some hip opener, hip mobility exercise, a Turkish Getup, a single Turkish Getup on each side, and there are great ways to progress this exercise from just 1 repetition on each side, and then finishing that setup with a hardstyle plank for 10 seconds. And you know, looking up at a clock, if you don't have like a watch that can sit in front of your eyes while you're doing a hardstyle plank, is really challenging and actually defeats the purpose of the exercise. So we just love to tell people that they can just count 10 individual breaths, and that's about 10 seconds for that exercise. So it's going to look like you know, you do some movement preparation, and then we're going to go into our 10 air squats, and let's just make sure hips are about feet are about hip width apart. We don't need to drive all the way down to the ground. We can just go to about 90 degrees at our knee, making sure that we're not moving too fast through that range of motion. Remind yourself at home that, you know, it's easy to get into this habit of moving really fast through these exercises. So just bringing it back to the focus of what is the purpose of what we're doing, and we just want to be able to maintain strength and kind of break up the days in our homes, right? And so 10 air squats, then we'll move into about 60 seconds of frog stretch, and I'm getting my knees as far out as possible as I can, and then I'm going to come down onto my elbows, and we want to be, as we're pressing back into our hips, keeping our back nice and flat, we're going to keep our chin up and look forward. And then if this feels okay, we can kind of rock back and forth, bring our chest closer to the ground, spread our legs out just a little bit. And then remember, as always, with those mobility exercises, if you find yourself holding your breath, you need to back off on the intensity on that mobility. The point is not to hold your breath. The point is to be able to breathe full inhalation and exhalation through those mobility exercises to get the best you can out of them. And then a Turkish Getup on each side. And the Turkish Getup is a great full body powerful exercise. It's really helpful getting like heavy weights up and down off the ground. But if we're at our house and we don't really have anything to use, we can start with just the Turkish Getup itself, and I'll explain how to progress this from here. So remember, one knee is bent, that same side, this arm is up in the air, straight up in the air from our shoulder. My leg and my arm are just out to the side, maybe like a 45-degree angle, and we're gonna roll up onto our elbow, nice proud chest, come up onto our hand, sweep that leg through your hips, hinge and stand up, high kneeling, and then we're going to windmill that foot, adjust our stance so that we can stand up from that lunge, and then reverse all of those motions, right? And so hand comes back down to the ground, nice and sturdy, hips come through. Remember to stay like nice and high in this position, coming down onto our elbow, nice and tight here at the end, back down onto our back. And then we can go ahead and switch sides. A great way to progress the Turkish Getup, if one single Turkish Getup is not enough for you, you can go ahead and instead of trying to like load it up, right, we can just use something to like balance on our fist or on our palm. And that forces you to have to go really slow, right? Because this implement, well, my shoe, is really easily off balance if I'm just holding my shoe on my fist, right? And I'll probably not be able to get through the Turkish Getup itself, but this is going to require you to remain silent and focused through the movement to be able to keep that in balance, right? And so finding certain implements around your house that you can use to balance on your hands is really helpful to progress that Turkish Getup. And we'll go into another in-depth video later on the week here on how to progress Turkish Getups with different reps and sets in terms of just the Turkish Getup itself. But I want you to finish out that superset with a hardstyle plank for 10 seconds. So you're going to come on the ground, elbows just under shoulders. Let's work on keeping our fists away from each other. The hardstyle plank gets easier the closer if you press your fists together. Your stability is a little bit more, and pulling your fists apart engages your lats just a little bit more. So, feet about hip width apart. We'll start with our hips high, and then pull everything nice and tight. 10 breaths. Hit the end of the superset, rest a couple of minutes in between, answer some emails, go get a drink of water, start back up at the top.